Look at these two waves. They are in phase. They have a phase difference of 0. What about these waves? You can see that they're totally out of phase. When one's going up, the other one's going down. They are 180 degrees out of phase, or there's a half wavelength phase difference. Now, we're going to think about what will happen if two waves are added together. For example, if you're listening to two sounds at the same time, what actually would the wave that you receive at your ear look like or sound like? This is known as superposition, adding of waves. And we're going to start out by looking at the simplest case of two identical waves being superposed, two identical waves being added. So, here we are. What happens will depend on the phase difference of the two waves. We can see here two waves that are in phase being added, being superposed. And you can see that the resultant wave has twice the amplitude of the individual waves. This is a case of constructive interference. The final wave has twice the amplitude of the original wave. Now this will only happen because the two waves are identical in frequency, in amplitude, and they're in phase. This is constructive interference, and perhaps it's not very surprising. But what happens if we superpose two waves identical in frequency and wavelength, but that are 180 degrees out of phase? I always find this a little bit surprising. The two waves cancel each other out. This is an example of destructive interference. By adding two waves, we can get rid of them both. Now we can summarise this as the principle of superposition. When two or more waves meet, then the resultant displacement will be equal to the sum of the displacements at that point. In other words, we add the waves up. Constructive and destructive interference is a special case of superposition, but any two waves will be superposed. So in this example, we're adding the red and the blue waves, and the resultant wave is the purple one, which looks very different from them both. Uses of superposition is for something called white noise. You may have found, or you may have heard of white noise, and nowadays people are developing systems that take the noise from an area and produce noise out that cancels out all the sound. And that way, by using destructive interference, then we have no sound. So it's a way of making a room quieter whilst having twice the number of waves. It's a little bit weird, but it does work.